Hi Year 7, Mr. Tapley here for your next lesson of Year 7 Geography. This lesson will be looking at developing our understanding of the key geographical concepts, or the ideas, the knowledge that we examine in geography, which are SPICES. So space, place, interconnection, change, environment, sustainability, and scale. Success criteria is to define each of those terms within SPICES, each of the letters, and to demonstrate our understanding at the end of the lesson by identifying examples of SPICES in a few geographical images, a few locations and places around the world. I should also stress at the start of this video that if it seems a bit long and you're thinking, how can I do this in one lesson? You can't, which is why this lesson is for 2 lessons. So it's spread across a split double period, I guess. So 7E4, almost forgot your names. You'll be completing this on Tuesday and Friday. 7F3, you'll be completing this in Thursday period 5, so your second half on Thursday, and then your lesson on Friday. So you get 2 lessons to complete the video, the slides, and the lesson activities, so don't stress. So, as we discussed in the previous lesson, when we introduced geography and the environment, the different areas of study in geography can be organized into 7 main topics or categories. SPICES. So that's space, place, interconnection, change, environment, sustainability, and scale. It is important to understand these concepts before moving on to our next topic. Before we teach you all how to do long division, you get to learn about what numbers are. Before we teach you how to write an essay, you read the alphabet. And before you build the foundation of the house, before you build the rest of the building, you build the foundation of the house. In geography, we learn the key concepts of SPICES before we move on to more complex topics. And hopefully you'll be able to make the connections as we move on to other topics. So you'll be looking at something and you'll be like, oh, that relates to the environment, or that relates to interconnection. So that's why we're looking at SPICES before we move on to the more fun stuff. Now, what I'm going to do is go through each of these little letters. So I apologize if it takes a bit of time. But again, you've got 2 lessons to work through this. So maybe in the first half of your double period, you go through the slides and the video and say, cool, I know what I'm doing. In the second half, you complete the lesson activities. It's up to you. But if you have questions or concerns about any of these, please let me know. Start with S. Start with space. So the different environments we explore, the cities we visit, or we used to visit before lockdown, all occupy space. And space is the location of a region. So basically space is, where is it? The location of an environment or a city will influence all the natural and human activities in that space. So the access to water, the climate, the weather, the temperature, and the wildlife are all influenced by where it is. So you can't have a polar bear in the middle of a tropical rainforest. You can't have a giant city like Melbourne on top of an active volcano. The space of a region can be described by its relative location to other locations. So if I'm trying to explain where something is, I could say, well, for example, Glen Waverley is 4 kilometers west from Mount Waverley, as you can see in that map down the bottom. Another way of describing a location, of describing space or measuring space, is using something called longitude and latitude, which we're not going to go into too much today. But basically, as you can see from this picture of the world here, the world is divided into this invisible grid of measurements, of lines covering the Earth. So it's a big piece of grid paper over it, and instead of saying go that direction when you're a pilot, you say go to these longitude and latitude coordinates. So it's just a very precise measurement tool to measure space. But we're not going to go into that in too much detail. P for places. So the different places of the world have different meaning to different people. The school library is a workplace for the librarians, a classroom for English teachers, and a place to relax with friends or borrow books for students. I think about that often because I'll describe, oh, I'm going to work, or I'll say, oh, I'm going to school. And I think that's going to sound so silly if I say I'm going to school and the students hear me, because they're like, no, you're not a student, you're a teacher. But anyway, so different places of the world have different meanings to different people. If I go to the local park, some people might say, oh, that's where I play footy, that's where I play sports. Some people go there to exercise, walk dogs, meet friends, or even have family barbecues. If space, so this one, is where something is, place is what that location is used for. So the features and the audience of a location will determine the meaning and the purpose of a place. So Macca's, some people, that's going to be restaurant, that's going to be a lunch. For some people who work there, that's their place of work. So space, where it is, place is what it is. Interconnection. In geography, everything we study is connected. Interconnection refers to the relationships and the connections between people, places, and the wildlife. To understand the cause and effect of actions and events around the world, so why do bushfires happen? Why does climate change happen? Why does a hurricane have a lot of impact here but not in here? We need to identify connections between human actions and the environment. If we intend to stop climate change, we need to understand what causes it. To prevent bushfires, scientists and geographers undertake geographical studies to identify problems and solutions. For example, the water cycle is a really good example of interconnection, of the connections and relationship within our environment. So all of these different things, all these different processes in places around the environment connect and will impact your life if you drink water, which I hope you do. C, change. The concept of change refers to an environmental change over time and space. These changes may occur naturally or as a result of human actions. Often change is human caused, unfortunately. It's often not for the best either. So an example of change might be pollution. By studying how a region changes over time, we can identify environmental challenges and plan future solutions to protect our environment. These changes may occur over a very short period of time, so a flood, or they could be long-term, like climate change. So on the bottom left here, we've got a picture of a Melbourne coastal city, Victorian coastal city, and you can see what it looked like in 1971. You've got a lot of trees down here, a lot of forests, and then in 2019, only 30-40 years later, it's changed. On the left here, we've got an image of a Arctic region before climate change. Notice the snow, and after climate change. Wow. Can you identify the environmental changes in these images below? You can, because I just told you. Anyway, E for environment. We're getting there now. The environment refers to the natural world around us. So all living things are part of the environment. Animals, mountains, plants, trees, oceans. The environment supports and improves our lives by providing us with natural resources, such as wood or minerals. So the electronics that you need to make your phone work are found in the environment, actually found often at the bottom of the ocean. We get our minerals for these electronic devices. Food and water, you definitely need those to live. And other ecological services, such as how trees and plant life produce oxygen, which we need to live. The environment people live in will have an important influence on their life, such as employment. So if I live up in Queensland near the Great Barrier Reef, I might have a job working as a tour guide. I might work in the mines if I live in Western Australia, where they have lots of natural resources like oil, gas, etc. I might work in forests, fishing, and it's also going to influence your health, the environment, because the air and water quality of a region might impact your life expectancy. You might live for an extra 10 or 20 years if you live in a clean environment. S, sustainability. So we looked at the environment, now we're looking at protecting the environment. So sustainability is about maintaining the environment to protect the future of our world. So making sure that the environment we have today is still there tomorrow, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, etc. If we overuse resources, so if we destroy an entire forest instead of just cutting one tree down to give us firewood, or we destroy an entire animal habitat, the environment will be unable to recover and it will be permanently damaged. If we do not practice sustainability, there won't be an environment left for you to learn about in the future. The environment provides us with everything we need for life: food, water, and air. However, it doesn't last forever. It's impressive, it's not magical. Sustainability is important to stop species of animals becoming extinct, to prevent famines and droughts in the future, and to support all types of life. That's why it's important we protect it. Final letter, we got there. Running out of breath though. Final letter is S for scale. To develop our understanding of environmental challenges, we can complete geographical investigations into local, national, and global levels. So the environment can happen I have a backyard environment, I have the Melbourne environment, Australian environment, global environment. By exploring all of these questions at a range of scales or sizes, we can deepen our understanding of different topics. For example, in 2020, the Australian government has responded to coronavirus, to COVID-19, by investigating health trends at global, national, and local scale. So they look at the coronavirus case numbers in Mount Waverley. They look at them in Melbourne, Australia, China, America, Japan, all over the place. And using all that information, investigating geography at different scales or sizes, gives us a better understanding of how to address this crisis. If the national government creates a law that protects forests, the population of endangered species at a national and local scale will be impacted. So it's all connected again. Addressing problems at different scales is an important element of environmental protection. So you can see how scale kind of relates to sustainability and environment. Environment relates to change because it's interconnected with places and spaces. So everything's connected in geography. We got there. Well done, boys and girls. All right then. So again, we're doing this across 2 lessons. So if you're feeling a bit tired and you're sick of hearing me talk, understandable, don't blame you. So you could pause the video here and address the rest of this later on. But for those of you that want to keep going, if you finish this all in 1 lesson, well done. And you'll have the second lesson of geography of Year 7 Humanities as a self-care lesson, I guess, to catch up on other work. But what you need to finish before the end of this week is the Sem 2 learning task S.P.I.C.E.S.S worksheet, which is located in Google Classroom Assignments. This learning task will assess your understanding of these key topics, these ideas, these concepts that we've covered this lesson. The worksheet requires you to examine a series of images connected to S.P.I.C.E.S.S and evaluate which concept the image represents. So does this picture relate to the environment? Does this picture relate to sustainability? If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. Again, there'll be 2 lessons of class time provided. Submit the file to Google Classroom before the due date/time. So I'll show you where that's located. Google Classroom. Got geography assignments, Sem 2 learning task, S.P.I.C.E.S.S. Click on that. Bonk. Got the instructions there. And we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 images connected to one, or connected to all of them really, but they're best connected, most connected to one of these S.P.I.C.E.S.S topics. So what you need to do for each image is say this image connects to blank, and this idea, this topic of S.P.I.C.E.S.S is, so you have to define the different topics of S.P.I.C.E.S.S. So for this first image, I might actually need to zoom in. You can see I've got the directions, the latitude and longitude coordinates for Melbourne. So for the space, the location of Melbourne. So which of these letters in S.P.I.C.E.S.S does this image remind you of? This map of Melbourne relate to? So this image connects to blank, and then you would just need to define that type of S.P.I.C.E.S.S topic. And then you just need to do that for image 1. Image 2, you've got an image of a forest that appears to have been cut down. Image 3, that's a picture of Great Barrier Reef in Queensland. So a coral reef, which is a type of aquatic marine environment. Some fishies. Looks like it's from Finding Nemo. Question 4, a bit of fun with this one. This one's a still from The Lion King. So we are all connected in the great circle of life. We might have to think abstract to think about which letter that relates to. Anyway, so that's what you're completing this lesson, guys. If you have any questions or concerns about that, please let me know. We did get the announcement today, I'm not sure if you've seen, recording this video on Monday, that the Year 7s will be back on site, back at school in week 2 of term 4. So that's next Monday. So we'll get to see your smiling faces next week, which I'm looking forward to. If you have any questions about the return to school or about remote learning before we return to school, please let me know. Otherwise, best of luck. Hope you're well, and cheers.